One of the first things we'll start out is just ExamFX.com. Regardless of what state that you're in, all states have different processes to get licensed in that state. So if you go to this insurance tab, just top middle, view state requirements, if you click on that, you can find your state. I'll just click on Kansas because I'm in Kansas. And right here in this, we've got this date stamped. And so I was on one earlier for Arkansas that was, I think it was the end of December. So this truly is every time we update it, we get new information from the state. Then we update this the state within this resource. And again, it's under insurance, view state requirements. And I'll just go to one other state, Pennsylvania. I'm just curious about a change coming with that too. So there's a change coming with Pennsylvania. Anytime we get new information, that's going to be on here. But the main thing is that this is going to list some states require 20 hours of study per line of authority. Some require 50, some require none. So right now we're looking at Pennsylvania, 24 hours required for life, accident, and health, or both. Okay. So if we come down here, about half the states, roughly half the states require a certificate of completion. The cool thing about this is going to be also within your course as well, but it's going to outline how to get a certificate of completion respective for your state. Okay, these steps are generally the same. They're pretty close, but that way you're making sure you're doing everything you need to up front that will help you on the back end as far as like getting your actual your license to be a producer. So if you scroll down a little bit more, and this is also state specific too. I wish I'd had this whenever I was getting my license. It can be an overwhelming process because you're going to be studying. You've got a lot of steps to go through. But what we try to do is break it down for you. So how to get my license? The cool thing about this is it's got your state testing provider, even with their contact information here. Make sure to bring your certificate of completion. There's links down here to NIPR or CIRCON, even links for your fingerprinting. So everything that you need is really going to be in this field. Down here toward the bottom, if the state allows testing in Spanish, it will tell you on our site what lines of authority are available for testing in Spanish. Here in the middle is all the lines of authority, how many questions there are, what's a passing score, and the time limit. The thing that I think is probably most helpful is down here at the bottom. For your state Department of Insurance, there's a phone number and the phone number for your state testing provider. There's three main testing providers, Prometric, PSI, or Pearson View. So yours will be listed at the bottom of this page with, again, phone number and for the Department of Insurance. This way you don't have to worry about Googling it, making sure you find the right phone number. We've got it all there for you. So it's a great resource that you can always refer back to. You don't have to be logged in to find that. Okay. So what you're going to do next is to register for ExamFX. There's the orange Register Now button. The next page, we've got insurance, continuing education, or securities. We're going to click on insurance courses. Okay, so I'm logged in. Let me just it'll log me out here and we'll go back to register now and then insurance courses. So the code that you've been given by your manager is going to go in this second box down where it says enter manager's email address. Okay, so you don't have to have a code, but the benefit of working with your manager, with your agency owner, is that it will help give you a discount off of the ExamFX retail price. And I'll show you what that is. So we'll hit next step. This is where you click on pre-licensing. We'll just go ahead and stick with Kansas just because we were looking at Kansas earlier. And then you're going to pick what line of authority. We'll do life and health next step. So this is our standard pricing. So you'll have the option with your manager code between video study package, live online. The difference between the two is live online comes with everything that video study package does, with the addition of every Monday, we do a life course from 10 to 5 Central, and Tuesday is health, 10 to 5 Central. We do it from 10 to 5 Central so that folks from all time zones can join, and it is available for all 50 states. It's general insurance knowledge. It's a great resource if you have no previous insurance experience, which most folks don't. And the benefit is you can take this as many times as you want. It's not limited to just one time. Lastly, On the live online, there is a recorded version available. So if you're unable to attend the live version and there is a moderator who checks for questions, so it's interactive, you can ask questions to the instructor, but there's a recorded version available 24/7 as well. So that's the difference between these two packages. The self-study is not going to be available as an option. You actually be able to get one of these two here lower than this self-study package by going through your agency owner. Okay, so once you've completed your registration process, you've selected which course, this is the main site where you're going to log in to your course. So in the upper right corner, user login, and again, we're going to go to insurance courses, and it's going to save my information because I've logged in here before. So we're going to click login. This little box is going to pop up. We always do a really good job of, like, if there's an upcoming holiday or something like that, we put any hours that we're going to be closed, or if their hours are going to be maybe minimized. We try to do that about a week in advance so that you can plan your studies accordingly, especially if they're going to have some downtime within our office due to holidays. Information about your course, we've just added this about the certificate exam because sometimes if we notice a certain uptick in questions, we've got just like a helpful tip that pops up here. We'll close that out and you'll have just one course here. You're looking at a couple of courses on mine because I have several courses for this demo account. The one that we'll use is this Colorado Life. Okay, so you'll have Life or Life and Health, depending on what you register for. Launch course, if you do the live online training, down here is where you would click to register for those courses. And once you've earned your certificate for the states that require it, you would access that with this view certificate. So all right here within the course, if you ever need to extend your course, you can do that as well over here to the left, or you can call our support number, which is 800-586-2253. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll launch our course. This course has got some progress in it. So the first time you're logging in, everything is it'll be like a blank slate. Okay. So once that pulls up here, a couple things right out the gate. So this widget right up here says license exam, like minus 11 days. So like a best practice is it's not always available. Sometimes you have to have some progress on your course, but once that is available, the cool thing about this is you can put whatever date that you want to be exam ready. And what this is going to do is count down. You see how quick it adjusted everything. It's going to count down how many days to whatever date you put this in. So if we change this as quick as I change this, maybe we go out until, hey, we're going to actually look at May 2nd. It changes 24 days. You have 60 days access in the course from when you register. So this date is dependent upon what you input here. Okay. And that's also kind of like an accountability piece, just letting you know how many days there you're going to be exam ready or estimated exam ready. If your state allows testing in Spanish, in the upper right corner, a really cool feature about ExamFX is this English to Spanish toggle. It will toggle the entire content of the course from English to Spanish and back. We use a third party for our translation. We actually get a lot of positive feedback on the quality of our translation. So if your state allows testing in Spanish, again, that resource page that we started off with is a great way to check. You'll also know just if this upper right corner is here. We just recently added this light mode to dark mode switch a couple of months ago as well. So, and then you've got the timer for the total time in the course for the states that do require that. And there's some states that actually limit the amount of time you can study per day. So you'll have a countdown timer up here as well if your state is one of those. Most important, always start with the introduction. If you've ever heard the saying, begin with the end in mind, that's what the introduction is. So with ExamFX in the past, the way our system was set up is you scroll through everything. We've made it where it's more based in modules, where you click through it. There are some sections where you still have to scroll a little bit, but it's designed to make you feel like you're getting through the course quicker, and our research and our data supports that. So course development, and I'll point out the areas that I think are of most importance just within the introduction. Under letter B, down here toward the bottom, it says pay attention to the know this markers. I wish I would have paid more attention whenever I used ExamFX, because the know this markers are boxes that are highlighted of testable content within the course. So if you understand the content, you have a better chance of getting that question right, regardless of how the question's asked, if you know the content. So that's under letter B. pay attention to this, know this markers, and I'll show you what those look like. For some of us, it's been a while since we may be taking a test. So there's study tips and even test taking tips, what to expect. A little bit about the exam. The area that I think also is of benefit is this exam breakdown. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later in the overview. This here, whatever state and line of authority that you're doing, so again, we're in Colorado Life, the number of questions are going to vary, but this shows you the weighting of each chapter, how they're weighted on the state exam. So when you get your test results from your practice exams, you can see how you're scoring. And I'll show you why this is important here in a little bit, but that's found under letter F, exam breakdown. Last part, a lot of folks ask about a blueprint for success. This right here, this recommended study steps, it's the only piece of information that's in the course twice. It's that important. This is based on like literally millions of users that we've been able to analyze over the decades now that technology is what it is. These steps are what to follow to set yourself up for just the best chance of passing on your first attempt. Okay. One quick tip is that we also recommend about 40 hours of study, 30 hours of actual like reading, like within the chapters, and then about 10 hours spent between quizzes and exams. Okay, so all these bars that are like orange and partially orange, when you first log in, they'll be blank like these ones down here. As you progress through the course, this is designed to show your progress. So again, that you're reinforcing that you're making progress through the course. Okay, best practices are always to go in order as well. Follow the chapters, go through the content, and then take the practice exam. The practice quizzes. All the quizzes are 15 questions. A passing score is 11 out of 15. Okay, so I'll show you what the chapters look like. There's an introduction, then there's all of the content, and then there's a chapter recap. So it's that, if you've ever heard the saying, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. That's the way this is structured. So if we come down here to the first part, you'll see right out the gate, here's a know this box. Insurance is the transfer of risk of loss. So regardless of how that's maybe asked on the exam, and it's designed to sometimes throw us off, that's what you need to know. Okay, so there's a very high likelihood that's going to be on the exam in some form. So as we scroll through this, again, there's going to be some scrolling within the chapters. We have these micro learning videos in here to kind of break it up. These are usually around 20 to maybe 20 seconds to a minute, give or take. And then as you progress through the course, you're kind of clicking through these boxes, scrolling down. You can navigate over here on the left, or when you get to the bottom, you can advance down there in the bottom right or go back. Okay. Chapter summary is summary of everything we just went through. For those of you, we use this thematic learning, and some people are better as far as like hearing information, reading it, and kind of just that kinesthetic hands-on. This is designed to be more immersive, and that how it takes you through the course is designed to get you to interact in the way that you learn best. The videos are great because when you watch the videos are kind of cool because they've got the script over here on the right. We've also added a feature. This is new, this closed captioning. So we've got closed captioning, and we've got the ability to speed up the video or slow it down just like a podcast. So it gives you more control over how you learn. Okay. So that's your video gallery. Toward the bottom here, flashcards. Flashcards are one of the most underused part of the course, and I can tell you, I think it's best used toward the end of your studies after you've gone through some practice exams. The reason being is the flashcards are open-ended. You know it or you don't, okay? And then going to the next one. So check answer. Did you know it? Answer is lost. Did you know it? Yes. Going to the next one. Okay. So those are a really good way, instead of like multiple choice, to do the open-ended, I think, toward the end of your studies as you're really getting exam ready. And that's, you kind of use it and use the tools that work best for you. Rounding out the chapter is the quiz. Again, all quizzes are 15 questions. I'll show you a little bit about the quizzes here. We start a new one. A couple of features we've added is you can now use this to select or deselect, use that process of elimination. And one thing about the quiz is when you submit your answers, so I just guessed at that. I'm going through that, I guessed, and I still get an explanation. People will sometimes say, why do you Give me an explanation if I got it correct. Well, I just guessed and got that right. Okay, so that's the rationale behind it. And then as you go through here, one cool thing about our quizzes and our exams is that we have this in the upper right corner options. You can pause and resume later. So you can pause this for up to 72 hours. This may not play as much of a role when you're in a 15 question quiz, but when you're doing a 90 question practice exam or 140 questions, depending on how many are in that particular course, and let's say you forgot about an appointment, whatever it might be, before you had to kind of just, quote, eat that score, and now you can pause it for up to 72 hours and come back to where you left off. So if we go back to chapter 1, we come down here to quizzes, we'll see resume, and it picks up right where we left off. Okay, so that's a pretty cool tool. So I'm going to go ahead and just submit this so we can see what it looks like. You can filter the review based on what you got right, what you got incorrect, or both. Okay. And then you can come back here and all your attempts will be listed here. So that's the way that the chapters are structured. All the chapters are structured the same way. There's 6 chapters. Down here toward the bottom, key facts, that's just like, think of that like a cliff notes of each of the 6 chapters again. Okay, there's just information here, just like a high level summary of the chapter. Should you want that, at the very bottom is a glossary of terms that are searchable. So that's where you're going to spend the majority of your time. Another tip is that, so in this particular course, there's 6 chapters. Just for simple math, let's pretend we had 8 chapters here. If you can get into ExamFX and you can complete 25% of those chapters in the first 48 hours. So if we did 2 chapters out of those 8 chapters in the first 48 hours, the majority of folks, over 80% of people, will go on to finish everything. So there's the importance of starting early and starting out the gate. And so again, that's the quicker you can do that, the better. It creates that positive momentum out the gate. So down from the chapters across the top, we have the resources. So I'm going to focus on this out there from the beginning. Certificate requirements. So again, this is state specific. So we looked at Pennsylvania certificate requirements earlier in the state overviews. We can see here there's a little bit more information for Colorado to get your certificate of completion. So if your state has a certificate of completion, click on that. This way you don't have to leave the course. Everything you need to know to get your certificate is right within the course. Here's your certificate exam. Some states, you have to complete all the chapter quizzes with a passing score, again, 11 out of 15 or better, for the certificate exam to open. But that's where you access that. So certificate requirements, certificate exam, resource center. There's a couple of resources in here. I mentioned that recommended study steps. The only thing that was in here 2 times, it's that important. That's in the introduction under letter G that we looked at. And then again, it's also in the resource center. If you're doing life or health, there's a pre-built 5-day calendar. These are not cookie cutter. This is state specific depending on your state and your state testing provider. And if you're doing life and health, it's a 10-day calendar. Not everybody's going to be studying full time. So like, let's just say, for example, you're doing life and you're not going to complete everything in 5 days. You can kind of adjust this. I've had people say this is still a great tool. They can say, hey, on the first day, I'm going to, read everything and watch maybe, like the first 3 chapter videos. Adjust it to what works for you. But that's under the resource center, kind of rounding everything out. Practice exam. You're going to spend the majority of your time on practice exams outside of the chapters. So here's what the practice exams look like. There are 2 types. So if we start a new attempt, there's learning mode and exam mode. Here's where you pivot and choose between the 2. Learning mode, the difference between these is that learning mode, it gives you the answer in real time, just like a quiz. So you're learning as you go. Exam mode, that's the one that I really recommend. And the reason is because that you get all the scores at the end, and it more closely resembles what you're going to experience when you take the state exam. Okay, so again, once we start one of these, we still have the ability to pause it for up to 72 hours and come back to it. So you'll see right here, there's a view focused exam. That's something that's not like listed up here. A focused exam, if you score, and I believe the range is like between I think it's like between 40 and 69%, I believe is what it is. But when you take your practice exam and you get this focused exam, so There's 90 questions in the practice exams for Colorado Life. So the focused exam is going to be 36 questions. So I got 54 right out of 90. So we subtract that. That's how many. So this really is a focused exam on the areas of the course that we missed. Okay. So one thing I want to show you about this is, so if we look at this view results, here's a really cool tool. So this is going to tell us right here all the chapters. We can click this little plus sign. It shows us the parts of the chapters that we're stronger in with a green thumbs up and a red thumbs down with areas that need additional work. Okay, so you can see the percentages that I got for each of the chapters. And if you remember earlier, we talked about the chapter breakdown. This is where I want to bring that full circle. So on chapter 4, hey, 77%. That's great. But you know what? There's 9 questions. Chapter 2 and 3, where I scored 52 and 64 respectively, those chapters have almost twice as much weighting as the chapter that I scored well in. So this is where I think you can be more tactical and come back and focus on the chapters where you have the biggest opportunity to improve your score, to increase your chance of passing your state exam. And again, we can come back to the chapters, introduction, exam breakdown to see those exact chapter percentages. Okay, last thing that we'll finish up with is ExamFX. We were the first provider that has basically a money back guarantee. That's this readiness exam. You get 2 attempts. This unlocks once you've scored a 70% on your practice exam. So again, we know that the best practices over here in the recommended study steps is to get scores close to an 80%. I would say the only thing that I would maybe tweak this a little bit is I would say 80% plus, because a passing score on the readiness exam is an 80%. And that's higher than any state. And there's a reason for that. So the readiness exam, what's kind of cool about that is that's going to pull up from a different question bank anywhere you've seen for your quizzes or other practice exams. So it really is your true test. Do you know the content versus do you know a question that you may occasionally see if you spend enough time in the course. So the readiness exam, you only get 2 attempts. If you pass that with an 80% or better, and you test within 72 hours. So those are the only 2 barriers to entry. 80%, 72 hours. So you can take this on a Friday. If you score an 80% or better, you can study all weekend. And if you take your state exam on Monday within that 72 hours and you don't pass, you call our customer support line, which again is 800-586-2253. You'll have to email your score results to them. They'll refund your money for the course and you still maintain full access to the course itself. Okay, so that is really everything. This widget up here, I don't really spend too much time on this because as you take your chapter quizzes, this is really an aggregate of all the different kinds of quizzes that you're taking. So they may, as you take more and score higher, that will change that. But the main thing is really like looking at that, I think, in my opinion, down here within the actual course itself. Okay, where you can see the number of questions. So once you have taken a couple of practice exams and you get those chapter scores, that's where you're really going to want to go back and focus on the chapters that you scored lowest in. So for me, it'd be chapters 2 and 3. I'm going to skim those. I'm going to look for the orange know this boxes. I'm going to probably go down and spend some time on the flashcards at that point, take the chapter quiz 2 or 3 times, then go into the next chapter and kind of work in reverse order. Because again, I think that's going to be your opportunity, the best way and the most tactical way to close those learning gaps. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Again, our customer support number, if you have any questions at all, is 800-586-2253. Thanks so much for choosing ExamFX.